Sometimes the biggest battle in life is not outside, it's inside our own mind. Have you ever noticed how one small decision can turn into 1,000 worries? What if I fail? What if people laugh? What if everything goes wrong? Many people live like this, always thinking, always worrying, until their thoughts become a cage. This is the story of a boy named Ezra. Long ago, in a quiet green village surrounded by hills and farms, lived a young man named Ezra. The village was simple: wooden houses, dirt roads, and the sound of birds singing every morning. Ezra was kind, hard-working, and intelligent, but he had one problem that made his life very difficult. He overthought everything. Before doing even the smallest thing, Ezra's mind would run like a storm. If he wanted to start a small business, he would think, what if it fails? What if I lose money? What if people say I'm foolish? If he thought about traveling to another village for work, his mind would whisper, what if something bad happens on the road? What if I make the wrong decision? Because of this, Ezra rarely took action. Days passed, months passed, and opportunities passed too. While other young men in the village learned new skills, opened shops, and built their lives, Ezra stayed stuck in the same place, trapped inside his own thoughts. People sometimes told him, Ezra, you think too much, just try. But for Ezra, trying felt like standing at the edge of a cliff. Then one day something unexpected happened. A powerful storm hit the village. Dark clouds covered the sky, and strong winds shook the trees. Ezra was returning from the fields when the storm became stronger. Suddenly a large branch broke from a tree and fell near him. Ezra slipped on the wet ground and injured his leg. He managed to crawl under a big old tree for shelter while rain poured heavily around him. He sat there in pain, feeling hopeless. Maybe this is my life, he thought sadly. Always stuck, always afraid. As the rain slowly began to calm, Ezra noticed something above him. There was a small bird's nest on one of the branches. Inside the nest were two tiny baby birds and their mother. The mother bird was chirping gently, encouraging them. Ezra watched carefully. One of the baby birds moved to the edge of the nest. Its tiny wings trembled. For a moment it looked afraid. Ezra whispered to himself, if it thinks like me, it will never jump. But the little bird didn't stop to think about falling, failing, or the future. It simply jumped, its wings flapped wildly, clumsily, uncertainly. For a second it looked like it might fall. But then something amazing happened. The wind lifted its wings, and when the bird began to fly, not perfectly, not smoothly, but it was flying, the second baby bird soon followed. Again, a shaky jump. Again, messy wings, and again, flight. Ezra stared in silence. Those birds had never flown before. They had no guarantees. They didn't analyze every possible danger. They simply trusted their wings and tried. And suddenly Ezra realized something that changed his heart. All this time, he thought, I was waiting to be completely sure before taking a step. But life doesn't work like that. If even a tiny bird can risk its first flight, why can't I? The storm had injured his body, but the birds had awakened his mind. That day, sitting under that old tree, Ezra made a decision. He would stop letting fear control his life. He would still think, but he would also act. Weeks later, Ezra slowly recovered from his injury, and for the first time in his life, he stopped waiting for the perfect moment. He started a small workshop in the village, learning to craft tools and wooden items. Was he afraid? Yes. Did he sometimes fail? Of course. But every time fear appeared, he remembered the small bird jumping from the nest, and he kept moving forward. Years later, Ezra became known in the village not as the boy who worried too much, but as the man who finally learned to fly. And all because of one simple lesson from nature. This story teaches us 3 important lessons. Sometimes thinking too much stops us from living the life we are meant to live. You don't need perfect confidence to begin. Sometimes you just need the courage to take the first step. And remember, just like the little bird, You may discover your wings only after you jump.